Individuals who have learned helplessness have learned, sometimes despite to the contrary, that their actions do not affect the outcome of events. They have learned that their behavior and situational outcomes are independent, and they are helpless to affect outcomes. In an experiment by Mayer and Seligman, harness dogs were pre-treated with electric shock. Some dogs could stop the shock, and some could not. It was later found that when presented in a situation in which they could escape the electric shock, dogs who were originally pre-treated with controllable shock would escape, whereas dogs pre-treated with an unescapable shock failed to escape even though they could control the outcome. In effect, these dogs had learned to become helpless. Early human experiments on learned helplessness used various different methods to replicate the earlier animal findings, including variable shock, unsolvable problems, and aversive tone. A famous early experiment by Hiroto and Seligman used both unsolvable problems and aversive tone in pre-treatment, which resulted in successful generalization of learned helplessness to other modalities. Born out of these human learned helplessness experiments, helplessness theory states that people's explanatory style influences the causal attributions they will make for a particular event. Explanatory style can be defined by three dichotomies: internal or external factors, stable or unstable factors, global or specific factors. Internal or external factors relate to how much the cause of the outcome was influenced by the individual or by outside forces. Stable or unstable factors relate to how transient the cause of an outcome is, whether it is long-lasting or occurs only once. Global or specific factors relate to how much the cause of the outcome influences other outcomes, whether it affects all outcomes or just this particular outcome. As an objective example, imagine that your partner gets hit and killed by a train in a freak accident. To you, the outcome is external. You had no control over the outcome. The outcome is also unstable. It was an unlikely freak event. The outcome was also specific, as most of your relationships don't end with someone getting hit by a train. Another objective example is, imagine you studied hard all week for an exam and you aced it 100%. The outcome is internal. You had control over the causes of the outcome. The outcome is stable. You always do well when you study hard for exams. The outcome is also global, because good results happen to you because you're smart and capable. A learned helplessness person's explanatory style is deficient because they view bad outcomes as attributed to internal, stable, and global factors. Learned helplessness individuals believe that bad outcomes were their fault, that it is pervasive and ever-present, and that it is representative of all the situations they face. Good outcomes are attributed to external, unstable, and specific factors. Learned helplessness individuals believe that they didn't cause the good outcome, that it is an unusual outcome, and that it is specific to the situation. In contrast, a functional and optimistic person's explanatory style sees bad outcomes as attributed to external, unstable, and specific factors. Healthy individuals attribute failure to factors beyond their control, to unusual factors, and to conditions only present in that particular situation. Good outcomes, on the other hand, are attributed to internal, stable, and global factors. Healthy individuals attribute good outcomes to their own abilities, to the pervasiveness of such abilities, and to the positive influence such abilities have on all outcomes the individual faces. Individuals can learn helplessness when they are faced with a traumatic event which they have no control over. Individuals can also learn helplessness through social modeling or socialization, or via a combination of both. Generally, individuals with learned helplessness suffer broad deficits in their motivation, cognition, and emotional well-being. This includes a loss of appetitive drives, passivity, and low self-esteem, among other things. Learned helplessness is also linked to depression, in that certain attributional styles may predispose people to depressive reactions. As well, learned helplessness is similar to depression in that it shares many similar characteristics with slight or minor depression. As much as individuals can learn to become helpless, they can also learn to become highly resilient and confident in their capabilities, as significant training with prior inescapable shock serves to protect individuals against any interference on any following helplessness trials. As well, any learned helplessness can be alleviated by a therapeutic procedure of forced responding.